Today we'll have a peek at one of the most classic archetypes in an RPG party, the tank. The fantasy of being in the face of the big bad evil thing, keeping it away from your party while wailing on its face with whatever weapons or magic you have at your disposal, really appeals to a lot of people, including myself. One way to soak hits is by pushing your armor class and saving throws to the max to just ignore most damage. The other way is by having a health pool that your feeble wizard friends can only dream of. And that is exactly what we'll be building today. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam, and whether it's channeling your inner wild thing or tanking demons butt naked, I'm here to help you with everything. So, I was wondering how much hit points we could squeeze into one character, and that is exactly what we'll be experimenting with today. As per usual, we will be fiddling around with two builds. The builds on their own are not super complex this time around, but I'm hoping to show you some things that you just didn't think about yourself. Like last time, I'll discuss any common ground that the builds have first, and we'll then delve into the specifics. I'll zoom in on how much hit points they will have and what other capabilities you gain while you level. We will push these builds all the way through to 20 because the HP pool gets deliciously absurd as we go on. Also, as usual, these builds will do things on their own. So yes, there are a few good spells out there that increase your maximum HP, but I will only be including those if the chosen build can cast them themselves. Also, I will not be including any magical items, so don't bother talking about the Manual of Bodily Health. Yes, it gives you +2 con and can exceed your cap of 20 con, but your DM is not going to give you one because you will already have a lot of HP. Today's race is my all-time favorite race, dwarves. I love dwarves, not just for their attitude and their looks, but also mechanically I really like what they have to offer. Giving +2 to constitution is often overlooked by people. They want that +2 to be in their main stat so they can poke harder, not get poked harder. But that is exactly what we are aiming for today, the pinnacle of the come at me bro tankiness, and no sub-race is going to offer us better value than the good old hill dwarf. Their dwarven toughness ratio offers us a nice and handy extra hit point per level gained. Together with the +2 con you already receive from being an awesome bearded fellow, you're already getting 2 HP per level without putting in any effort. The meat mountain is building up, but we're not done yet. You want even more HP? Better get the tough feat. This feat is very straightforward yet very effective for what we're doing. Tough adds another 2 HP per level. It works retroactively as well, so if you pick it up at level 8, your HP will immediately increase by 16 and then you'll get another 2 HP per level afterwards. Now you might think all these tiny bits of HP are not going to do much, but considering Average Joe being a 16 constitution character with a hit die of 8 will have around 163 HP on level 20. You have already added 60 HP extra with being the right dwarf who is also tough. That is over 30%, but it's not going to stop there. More HP is coming. When you want to be the meat mountain, there is only one class that allows you maximum meatage, Barbarian. With its juicy D12 hit die, it nets you an average of 7 HP per level, 2 more than Average Joe's 5 HP per level. Along with the previous bonuses, this is already 100 HP more than Average Joe has, and that's assuming you only have 16 con at level 20. The reason I call this build Conan the Meat Mountain is pretty simple. We're going to go full Barbarian on this, and we're going to see how far we can push this fellow. When building this character at level 1, grab 15 Dexterity and 14 Constitution without racial bonuses. You can divide the rest of the points as you please. Flavor this character however you like. We won't be using a two-hander, we're focusing on survival here, there is no reason not to use a shield. Yes, we're building a Dexterity Barbarian. Survival is key here, so picking up more armor class along with the extra HP is very nice. You don't need rage damage to be effective, and reckless attacks open you up to more attacks as well, so let's not. Also, rapiers are boring and very unbarb-like, so talk with your DM and see if you can reskin it into something cooler. Maybe a shorter spear or something else that screams dexterity barb to you. It changes nothing gameplay-wise, so it should be fine. It's terrible that strength guys have so much weapons to choose from, but dexies can only wield a slightly longer needle. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to stop you from turning this build into a brute strain barb that wields a two-hander and is punching everything he encounters recklessly. The extra health points will cover your naked butt, but our goal today is to stay alive, not making other things dead. At level 3, we have to pick a subclass for this hunk of flesh, and I'm afraid the most boring option is the best one. By picking Totem Warrior and taking the bear as our first animal, we will only take half damage while raging, so we will effectively double our HP pool, as long as your campaign isn't filled with Professor Xavier wannabes assaulting your mind 24/7, because the bear totem can't do anything versus psychic damage. At level 4, we'll put 1 point into dexterity, bringing that one up to 16, and 1 point into constitution, bringing that up to 17. Level 8 will give us the aforementioned tough feat, already putting us 24 HP ahead of the rest at this point, without even looking at your larger hit die or your constitution modifier. This is purely because of the feat and the extra HP gained from Hill Dwarf. Your hit die and the constitution that you have will give you another advantage of 16 to 24 HP, depending on whether you're following this guide or investing more into constitution earlier on in the game. If you want to see how I spent the rest of my ability score increases, have a look at the link to the build, which will be in the description. From here on out, you'll just be gaining more and more HP, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But let's have a look at how we can make our tough guy even tougher. To do so, we'll do the unthinkable and not max out our dexterity to 20. With 18 dex and max con at level 20, you will have 23 armor class with a shield. That's really not that shabby, counting there's no magical items involved yet. We're going to look at a way to stabilize our self-healing. Hit dice are great, and we have the best. But if the roll comes up crappy time and time again, you're just not keeping your meat mass going as much as you could and should. Hence, at level 16 or 18, we could pick up Durable. Hardy and Resilient, you gain the following benefits. Increase your constitution score by 1 to a maximum of 20. When you roll a hit die to regain hit points, the minimum number of hit points you regain from the roll equals twice your constitution modifier with a minimum of 2. At level 16, this means that our 18 constitution will guarantee that our hit die always heals for at least 8 health per die. So you never gain less HP than when you roll a 4 on the die. At level 20, with our whooping 24 constitution that we'll have thanks to the Barbarian Capstone, your hit dice will guarantee 14 HP being healed per die, which is the same as rolling a 7 on your d12. Your party support or healer will like you for actually being able to keep yourself going for quite a bit. At level 20, with all of our feats, racial ability and our wonderful 24 constitution, you will end up with 345 hit points if you take HP average on level up. Average Joe, our 16 con d8 character, will have 163 at level 20 while raging, and as long as you're not facing a horde of psychic attacks, you'll effectively have 690 HP. Congratulations, Conan the Meat Mountain has quadrupled the effective HP of Average Joe. Now start raging and tang the living bejeebus out of whatever puny things the DM throws at you. Build 2 is going to have even more hit points, but it comes in chunks and pieces. We're going to see how much health points a druid can bring to the table. At first I thought about picking up a few levels of Barbarian for this build. Barbarian Druid is a well-known build for tankiness. Maybe getting some rage, some extra attack and some other things could help this build when you're playing for the lower levels, but then I had a look at some of the Druid capstone abilities, which far outweigh whatever advantage the Barbarian can bring to the table when we look at raw HP. We are of course sticking with our Hill Dwarf. The extra HP will not carry over to Wild Shape, but while we're in Dwarven form casting spells, it will still help us. Also, Hill Dwarves have a Wisdom bonus, yay! Starting stats will focus on wisdom, constitution and dexterity in that order. It should be no surprise here that we're aiming at a circle of the Moon Druid. Wild Shape brings tons of HP to the table for Moon Druids. Even when you transform with your druid at 1 HP, the wild shape will bring its full HP. So for example, at level 3, right after you've selected your circle, your druid could be beaten down to 1 HP and he could suddenly transform into a giant hyena, have 45 HP again and start munching on the enemies. Speaking of wild shape, let's have a look at the wild shape with the highest health pool at each challenge rating. As you might know or might not know, thanks to your moon circle, you will be able to turn into animals with a challenge rating of as high as 6. So we'll start at 1, work our way up to 6. At CR1, our best shape, I already mentioned it, is the giant hyena with 45 HP and a very nice rampage ability. CR2 gives us the Allosaurus with 51 HP and also it's a dinosaur, yay! CR3 brings the giant snapping turtle which has 72 HP, which is really nice, but on top of that it also has 17 armor class as long as you're not prone. CR4, back to the dinosaurs with Stegosaurus and also the elephant, both have 76 hit points. CR5 gives us the Brontosaurus with 121 HP. If you would be in a water campaign, you could also have a look at the Obliteros at 126, but it has no land speed, so don't bother if you're in the mountains. CR6, the highest we can go, has the Mammoth with 126 HP per pop. The nice thing about our wild shape is that apart from the fact that as a moon druid you can use it as a bonus action, you can do these twice per short rest. So even if your party only takes 1 short rest during the entire day, you could turn into a majestic mammoth 4 times and that would yield you 504 extra HP a day on top of your caster form HP, which will be very decent thanks to our tough hill dwarf. Mind you people, as you all know, a druid needs to see one of these animals in order to shapeshift into it. Chances are slim that your DM will give you all of them, but you could weave some of them into your backstory as long as it makes sense. Don't try to squeeze all of them in there, that's just gonna be awful. I'm all for crazy builds, but you have to be able to explain them in a reasonable way RP wise, if you want your DM and your party to go along with it. Now, you will have a pretty free reign when it comes to spells, but we're going to write down some that you should absolutely pick up in order to gain even more HP. For the first, 7 levels of being a druid, there aren't really any major spells that improve your hit points. When you're not in wild shape, you could cast Enhance ability and use Bear's Endurance on yourself. It gives you 2d6 of temporary hit points, but it is a concentration spell, so the moment you turn into a hyena, you lose the benefit. Our first important spell is a 4th level spell, and it is of course Polymorph. So Polymorph allows you to turn someone, be it you or any other creature around you, into a beast, and the beast can be as strong as the player's level. So if the player is level 8, you can do an 8 CR beast or lower. If the target is unwilling, they can make a wisdom saving throw, but your target will always be willing in this case because we're going to use Polymorph to turn ourselves into a giant pool of hit points. Now there is an important difference between wild shaping and using Polymorph on ourselves. In wild shape, you retain all of your own mental attributes, whereas when you polymorph yourself, you will take over the mental attributes of the beast that you chose. So, you are going to become more stupid when you polymorph. Don't act like you're an 18 wisdom druid when you're a 4 intelligence bird in reality. What are we transforming in then? Usually when people transform party members or their selves with polymorph, the T-Rex is a very popular pick. Everybody loves the idea of a giant T-Rex stomping around, eating people, trying to open doors with their short little arms. But the T-Rex is not the form with the most HP out there. Huge giant crabs are, however. This CR8 beauty has 161 HP, 15 armor class, he's huge, he can swim and he can grapple 2 targets with the pincers. It is a lot of fun. At level 9 and onwards, we will have 3 level 4 slots, and that is the most we are getting. So that's 3 hours of Krabby times a day, which is 483 extra hit points, as long as no one breaks our concentration. Yes, Polymorph is a concentration spell. Luckily, there are 2 options to help us keep concentration. The first one would be Warcaster, which gives you advantage on concentration checks, but it is unclear whether or not the Warcaster feat carries over to your polymorphed spell. There's a lot of discussion about it, and I invite you to discuss about it down below in the comments, but I'm not really convinced that that one sticks around. The one that I know that does stick around, however, is Resilient Constitution. It makes you proficient in Constitution saving throws, which druids are not, and it gives you an additional +1 con, which gives us a nice amount of extra HP in caster if we plan out our ability scores as such. Our next HP increase is the level 6 spell Hero's Feast, giving us and the rest of our party 2d10 HP extra for a full 24 hours. It is an expensive spell to cast, however. It requires a gem-encrusted bowl worth 1000 GP, and it does consume the bowl on cast, but at this level it should be manageable to get a hold of one on a regular basis. A lot of discussion has been had whether or not these extra hit points carry over to your wild shapes. I'm inclined to say yes, and that is not just because I'm making a cheesy max HP build, but because it is something that affects you as a being. I kind of treat it the same way as a status condition, which does carry over to your wild shape as well. Feel free to discuss this again in the comments, but it doesn't feel wrong to me. When we finally reach level 9 spells, we will obviously pick up Shape Change. When I was making this episode and still looking at Barbarian Druid crossover, I completely forgot about this beauty. It allows you to choose from a crazy amount of creatures, and you get to keep all of your racial feats and whatnot, provided that your new shape can use them. This means that whatever you turn into with this spell also gains the benefit of your tough feat, and maybe even your Hill Dwarf HP if you can convince your Dungeon Master that it makes sense. So there are some limitations on the spell, of course. You cannot shapeshift into uniques, so you can't tell your Dungeon Master that you will transform into that big bad evil human wizard that is his end of the campaign bad guy, because the spell dictates that you change into an average of that creature, so you would just become an average human. Way to waste your level 9 spell slots. There are, however, dragon turtles. Dragon turtles are wonderful. They have 20 armor class, 341 HP, which will be 381 because of our tough feat. And during the hour that the spell lasts, you can also change into anything again. So if your dragon turtle would become too big for what you have to do, you can just change into a smaller creature, do whatever you have to do, and then turtle it up again for combat. It is wonderful. It is epic. I love dragon turtles. I highly advise you to turn into one during combat and just smack things around. A quick overview of the ability score increases that we will pick up with this druid shows us that you are able to attain both 20 wisdom and 20 constitution while still picking up both the tough feat and the resilient constitution feat. So that is wonderful and really all we could be asking for. At max level, our constitution saving throw will be +11, which should be enough to keep both polymorph and shapeshift going when you need them to. Now you might be wondering, and you should be wondering, how many hit points are we guaranteed to have with all these forms and spells and whatnot? Allow me to count it out for you. Our caster form, our Hill Dwarf, will have 263 hit points. You will gain an average of +11 from Hero's Feast every day you can cast it. Our huge giant crab, which we can become 3 times a day, will yield us 483 hit points. The mammoth, our chosen wild shape form, it's 252 if you cannot take any short rest and only can do it twice a day. If you have 1 short rest, our mammoth will yield us 502 hit points. And then of course our glorious dragon turtle will give us 381 hit points per day with the tough feat included. This brings us to the grand sum of 1,640 hit points, which is a lot. Of course, this entails that you are having this crazy long day that allows you to use all of these tools, but it's nice to think and know that this is a theoretical maximum for your hit points. Now, some of you might say, hey Sam, can't druids use wild shape an infinite number of times at high level? And the answer is yes. Yes, they can. They can even cast spells while in wild shape, so technically your druid has infinite hit points, but I can imagine you're not going to fight all the high level creatures by constantly transforming into a CR6 mammoth. So for the calculations, I just counted 4 wild shapes a day to have a nice average amount of hit points. Doing a calculation that says I'm going infinite is absolutely boring. Also, that assumes that the high CR monsters aren't just going to slap you out of your mammoth shape in one shot, which quite a few of them can, so you'll need bigger forms for those. That's where the higher spells and such come into action. So here you are with all your hit points and tankiness, but what motivated your character to become this hulking mass of health? How is your character looking at the world and what makes it tick? Just like last time, I'm going to throw you some ideas on what you could do with these builds when it comes to role-playing. Believe you me, people go a lot easier on you when your crazy mechanics build actually has a decent character concept build around it. And also, D&D is still a role-playing game, so roleplay, damn it! Len was never considered weak in the village. Though when he was attacked, it quickly became clear that they were too weak to protect it. If only Len was capable of taking the punishment the enemy had handed out that day. Tales were told of tribes in the mountains who trained their strongest and swiftest warriors to be able to withstand anything being thrown at them. It was very clear to Len that going there was the first step. The first step in never again being too weak to protect anyone. No one would fall when Len was watching over them. Drea had always been close to nature. She had learned to channel its power and could change into simple creatures if she concentrated well enough. If she wanted to grow more powerful and help in preserving the balance of nature in her homeland, she would have to travel. Travel and see the fantastic beasts that populate the world. See them and learn their ways. Only if she mastered the way of the beast thoroughly, the elder druids would think about making her a full-fledged member of the inner circle of the druids of the moon, marking her training as completed and showing her the more difficult parts of being a druid, safeguarding the balance of nature throughout the world. That is all I have to give for today. Let me know down below if you'd be willing to go all the way when it comes to building massive stacks of HP. Or maybe you have another build that is quite able to collect some nice HP totals. If you have any topics that you would like to see me discuss, do not hesitate to drop them below. And as always, if you want an easy way of visiting me and my weird ideas, click subscribe, and then if you want to go all the way, click the little bell next to it. Hopefully I will see you all again next time in the Attic Dungeon.